And the other thing that was a huge gift was meeting, many people know Father Max Dalvai from Oasis of Peace. We met at the end of that first month in 2013 at Oasis, and he became a very dear friend ever since, and we've remained very close friends. So he's been probably one of the most faithful priests I've ever known as a Catholic. So, and so that was a huge grace that came in Medjugorje. So at that point I moved to Rome, and soon after that, on my first pilgrimage to Poland, I received the vocation to found a nonprofit and be a missionary for good.
Wow,
and
beautiful.
So living in Rome, between Geneva, Rome, Sarajevo, I was able to come to Medjugorje all the time, and so I was always here 3-4 times a year. And for me, coming less than twice a year is like starving. And
can you explain that? What is happening here? That it's like starving. Can you explain to a non-Catholic what is so special about the place?
It's funny. It's one of those things like communion. Like when you're taking communion, you don't necessarily feel fireworks, but if you haven't had communion that day, things just don't feel right.
Beautiful.
It's that kind of thing. And so you might be fine, your life is good, there's no problem, but we joke about feeling the pull or needing to go or not really knowing why, and then just need to. And then, when COVID happened, we were all locked out of here for quite some time, some of us longer than others, and I was living temporarily in Washington, D.C. at the time. And I'd managed to get back twice after I had moved there, but then we were locked out for over a year, at least I was. And when I came back for the 40th anniversary, I cried. I cried. Oh yeah, I wouldn't have missed it for anything. I cried desperately for days. It was intense. I cried when I saw anybody who I was reunited with. I mean, it was funny. I was reunited with one of the tour guides, who Dragan. Who is, everybody loves Dragan. He's a man's man. He's cool and everything. And I took one look at him and just went, "Whoa, you're okay, you're fine." And he's looking at me like, "You're not fine." So his wife has me over later and she goes, "Are you okay? What's going on?" I'm like, "No, we're just so worried about you." So it's, I think there's an intense bond of love that happens. Even if relationships are at this level, it doesn't matter, because there's something deeper that's holding everybody together, that means something that it goes beyond words, and you might not even be able to explain it. So, but also I was away again for a whole year this past year. Last year I stayed in Bosnia 2 months, discerning a move. I was living in Rome, and I could tell that it was time to move, and I didn't know where God wanted me to go, and there was a lot of it, just didn't know God's will, and so I waited here for a very long time, between here and Sarajevo. And I finally got the answer after I left, and the Lord finally showed me to move to Poland. And so I moved to Poland, and then immediately war broke out. And so it was a very stressful year, to say the least.
Absolutely.
A lot of discernment, and then no time to come here at all. And it was hard, because so many of my Polish friends were coming here like crazy. They're like, "We're going, you want to go?" And I couldn't. And so I finally got here for the youth festival, and I cried every day for like 6 days. And I just knew it's been too long. I cannot do this whole year business. So, hey Medjugorje, I'm back. I'll be back more often.
And what would you tell, you as a former Protestant, what would you tell, the Protestant world, what would you tell them about this place?
I don't know.
You started the interview, said you heard about Mary, you said it was
Well, everybody knows Wayne Weibel's story. He's now in heaven. He was the most famous American kind of convert from Medjugorje who wrote a bunch of books about it, and he was coming here and bringing people before he even converted to the church. But he was Lutheran, which is more high church and easier with the Mariology. I think the easiest way to go about it is, before I became Catholic, I heard about the apparitions at Fatima in Portugal. And Fatima is indisputable. It's a historical fact. It's a matter of historical record that Our Lady appeared to more than 70,000 people there, and there were people who saw the miracle of the sun all over Europe. and it was recorded in the papers, and you know, this happened. End of story. So when I saw that and understood that, I went, okay, so these Marian apparitions are not a lie, it's not a joke, it's not old wives' tales, it's real. So once you cross that hurdle, then the rest of it is more logical. It makes more sense. And when you come to understand that, well, I heard a really beautiful concept from Father Svet, because I met him in the very first year, second year I came, before he left and Father Marinka took over. And Father Svet said, and this, you can really tell in this talk that he gave, that he used to run Mother's Village with all the orphans. You know, what he was saying to us is something he's probably said to many, many orphans who have no parents or no parents present. He said, have you ever seen a cute little kid on the street that was just all sweet and you just wanted to pick it up and take it home? And he goes, that's how Our Lady feels about every one of us. She sees you like this little kid, she just wants to take you home. Mary's in the business of adopting children. This behold your mother thing. And that changed my understanding of Mary completely. And it was something easy to connect with. And every time I love little kids, and if there's a baby in the room, I'm going to pick it up if somebody will let me, and I will hold it as long as possible and all that. And knowing that that's how Mary feels about us, very sweet, is very easy to relate to. And so I would just say, take her seriously, because God takes her seriously. He sent her to warn people about the end times and to give us the information we need to cope with the political things happening in the world, with the wars and the communism. And so tell us, come back to the Lord, stop what you're doing, stop it now. And you know, the events we're going through in the church now, they're terrible, but Mary told us in all the different apparitions, so we can have peace and confidence that, okay, it is wrong and it is dreadful, but there is a purpose in it, and the hope is that at the end God has a plan. And so we don't despair when we see these abominations happening. So I would say, between the love of a mother who picks up little kids on the street to the one who comes as the messenger of the Lord to warn us and give us peace and direction in the middle of everything.
Beautiful. Thank you for this beautiful interview.